Hello everyone, this is a video about black magic and dark energy and evil energy, if you want to call it that, and kind of what it is from more of a clairvoyant perspective. I'm sure you probably know what black magic is, but more from a energetic perspective and kind of how it ties into existence and how it can exist. So, to start this off with, I think it's important to first define what black energy is beyond just the color black. Um, and I did this a little bit in my video I just made about it was my psychic prediction video for the month of March 2023, and you can go back and watch that if you would like um, for more information about this. I will go ahead and leave a link to that. If you're watching this on YouTube, it should show up at the top of the screen at the very end of the video or in the description of the video. I'll post a link to that. But anyways, just to recap, black energy is basically stagnant energy. You could say there's like the white light of God, of oneness, of the universe, whatever you want to call it. That's kind of like oneness of all creation is the white light, and the further away from that you get with different colors, the I guess you could say lower frequency you get, but I don't want to say lower frequency necessarily as a negative, because there's an intention to disconnect from source to some extent in order to experience something other than source. Because if we were just vibrating 100% exclusively at the vibration of oneness, then we would be one with God, and we wouldn't be having the experiences that we're having in a human body or as a spirit outside of a body. Either way, it would be that wouldn't exist, because it would just be within oneness. So in order for there to be something more than just that, there has to be a disconnect. So it's not necessarily negative, but it's a little bit like kind of painful compared to being oneness, being at complete peace with everything, to be torn away to kind of more of this chaotic state of existence, which is a little bit more painful and a little bit more dark, you could say. And that shows up within the clairvoyant understanding of the energy. When you can see the energy, it becomes darker when it's more disconnected, but it's also more out of sync with things. And because it's more out of sync, it's disconnected. You could say antisocial behavior is similar to this in the way that it's disconnected from the flow of things naturally moving, naturally shifting, kind of in harmony and connection with each other. And then there's like this more like black energy that's kind of just like in one spot, and it's not moving, it's not flowing, it's disconnected, and so it can become very heavy and kind of sink to the bottom of the ocean, so to speak. And at that point it can actually start to self-destruct in the way that things decompose, and that's a natural, that's just nature, that's just the process of nature, is for that to happen. So then why is it that there is black magic, and why is it that sometimes these darker energies can thrive? And that's what I'm about to get into here. So the way that works is almost a contradiction, but you could call it an enigma if you would like. I think that's more an appropriate word for it than contradiction. because it's not really a contradiction, but it seems like it. But let's say there's this black energy, and let's say there's this being that is completely black energetically, which generally represents, I've heard it explained in psychic school as black energy represents pain, something that you're resisting. Trying to remember what the other one was. Oh yeah, punishment, that's right. Punishment, self-punishment, or punishing others. Basically, kind of like judgment. So those are so pain, punishment, and resistance, something that you're resisting, or you're in resistance to something. And I don't mean that as in like an uprising you're resisting, but I mean like there's something about yourself that you don't want to look at. Those are the qualities that some people will describe as the different qualities of black energy. But all of those things are also stagnant. Like they're all like in resistance, kind of avoiding being looked at. You don't want the light shown on it. It's black, wants to be hidden away, doesn't want to be exposed. Resisting being seen, etc. And then there's pain, obviously disconnected from source, disconnected from harmony. And then there's punishment, which is kind of the or judgment in some sense, where you're disconnected. You're not accepting things, basically. And again, I want to say really quick that all of these things are also not evil, like something that we should shun, because on some level we are all like that on purpose, and part of that was, like I described, on purpose to separate from source. So it's not like there's a good or evil necessarily inherently in what I'm saying. I guess if you did want to say there was a good and evil, you could say that good is beings that have darkness within them that are moving towards the light, because we all have darkness within us, because we're not all pure white light, completely one with God by design. We're not. That's not what we want. What we want to be, starting at a certain point and kind of heading to that direction. I guess that's what you would call goodness. But then there are other beings that are actually more coming from source, you could, or even white light, or even just higher than us, or even lower than us. But they're going in the opposite direction towards darkness in order to create more of that separation from oneness, in order to create more variety from that singularity point of origin. And so I guess you could call that evil, but it's really just a word, so I don't really like using that word too much. But it can be helpful in some situations. So let me collect my thoughts and try and remember where I'm going here before I start rambling. So the way that black, dark energy beings are able to thrive and have black magic, basically, is if their whole being is, black, basically, completely stagnant, not like connected to anything, just disconnected to everything, in a state where it would naturally sink to the bottom of the ocean and just destroy itself. What happens is there's the natural process where nature will make it destroy itself, or it can create as little as like one cell within its being, metaphorically one cell, or you could just say a piece of energy within its being that it connects directly to source with. So this would be like something that's like all black, but it has like one cell in it that is connected to the source. And in some sense, it's kind of like sacrificing that one cell in its body, if it was to have a body. Um, and I believe this is very much so why sacrifice is such a common theme in spirituality and religion. It's because the the darkness in some sense is giving itself up and being like, okay, well, I'll give this one little cell to be not dark or not like stubborn and stuck in this disconnect from the rest of the environment around. And that is like usually like black magicians. They have one thing they do where they just like throw everything at it. They put their whole life on the line, and it's like really, really, really intense, and it can be like traumatizing. The techniques that they can use sometimes to develop these connections, because it's like the sacrifice again, and it's because there's such a polarity between what they are and the point, this one connection that they want. Whereas a different way of going about it would be more like a holistic way, where you kind of bring all of your cells, so to speak, or all of your being slowly closer and slowly closer as a whole. Whereas like the more black magic method is where there's like this one part that is like fully up, like connected, but then all the rest isn't. And so again, there's this weird contradiction, disconnect within the being itself as well, but it's able to kind of transmute the heaviness that would sink it to the bottom of the ocean, self-destruct, with that allowing it to exist and allowing it to actually become very powerful. And then it gets more complicated, because what I just described is basically a demon, you could say, for lack of a better word. Maybe some people would disagree and say that's not a demon. Demon is this specific thing, not that. I don't know. They're just words. But regardless, that is what I would call demonic, at least on some level. And so there are also people, beings who connect to demons. So this is where it gets more complex, because you don't have to necessarily be like a black magician that connects directly to source. You can also connect to a demon that connects to source and have like more of an indirect connection to source, but it's still a connection. And so that's just to further complicate things. That is definitely a way that it can be done. And again, these are just, sorry, noise. These are just words that are, somewhat relative, because on some level we are all somewhat dark because we are disconnected from source ourselves. It's just in contrast, we may look at something much darker than us and wonder how it can exist. And a lot of the times, like once you get to a certain like level where if say your entire auric field was to turn black, then you'd be like in such a strange position that you may need to sacrifice some small part of yourself to have more of a connection, to stabilize yourself, to prevent yourself from just sinking down and just imploding, basically, and just no longer being able to exist in that state because it's just so out of balance. But so that's one extreme. And then there's also other things in between where you might not have an entirely black auric field. You might just have it be really dim and it's not very bright. And that's fine. That's life, There's no judgment on this. Um, but again, you're going to be in worse health, or you're going to not exist, basically. And again, not having good health isn't necessarily bad either. That can also just be a transition, and sometimes your spirit wants you to move on, or teach you a lesson, etc., etc. So again, it's so complicated. So let's not put things in boxes here, because I think that's important, to avoid putting things in boxes and labeling things, different things, and kind of pointing your finger at this or that and having judgment on it, because it's so much more complicated than even as what I'm saying right now, because there's so much more, so many variables going on. But regardless, that's kind of the difference in polarity. You could still be like not necessarily a dark being relatively to the vibration of the planet that we're on. You could be not a darker vibration than that, be completely in harmony with that, but still have a part of yourself that you may have sacrificed to have like a higher connection as well. And that doesn't necessarily mean that is black magic relative to your environment. Again, it's all relative, and depends on your definition of black magic, I guess. So I feel like I'm just rambling here, and I think you probably get what I'm saying for the most part. Again, it's all relative, so words don't always quite do justice here. But if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I always appreciate that. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. I will post a link to the other video where I talk a little bit about the dark, black, evil energy that I was seeing around the planet for the month of March 2023. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll have it like pop up somewhere at the top, so you can click on that, or in the description below. Thank you for watching, and have a great day. Also, don't forget to subscribe, and if you want to click that notification bell and click it to all, then you will be notified for all of my videos, and you'll be able to watch them. Also, by the way, if you have email notifications, you can turn those off, because those can be annoying. Nobody wants their email just flooded with notifications. So anyways, thank you for watching, and have a great day.